Today we're going to be looking at the top 5 prospects who are currently being a little bit overrated based on their current draft projection. Now all these guys, of course, have what it takes to be great players in the NFL. There's no doubt about it, but at the end of the day, as the BackSeat general manager, I feel it is my duty to find prospects who might not be as good or as NFL ready as they are being projected, because at the end of the day, you don't want to draft busts and you don't want to draft players that are draft players too high in general. So without further ado, let's get into it at the top 5 players that maybe teams should pump the brakes on. So number 1 here, we have Amarius Mims from Georgia. He's currently being projected in the middle to late first round, and I myself have a late second to early third round grade on Mims. Now, Mims has a ton of potential because you see things in pass protection like a great kick step, and you see things in run blocking like his ability to open holes for the running back. And then you combine that with his mammoth size, being listed at 6'7", and I think it's 370 pounds according to Google at least, or ESPN.com. I mean, he's got what it takes to succeed, but there are some things on his film that he definitely needs to work on, and part of that is his athleticism, because despite his good kick step at the snap of the ball, he has some difficulty getting to the second level, and you can really see that he just doesn't have that speed that you want an NFL offensive lineman to have nowadays, especially in an NFL where they're asking their linemen to handle different assignments and handle more than one player way more often. It's more of a zone scheme than a man-to-man when it comes to offensive linemen. And then also, a big red flag that I had was that Amarius Mims, he's very injury prone. He's had multiple injuries at Georgia, and I don't know if this is a stamina issue or if this is just a Georgia scheme type of thing, but there were a lot of plays where Amarius Mims wouldn't be on the field. One drive he'd be on the field, and then the next drive he'd be off, and that rotation really confused me. And if that is about his stamina because of his size, then that is just another red flag. And while I do see some things in Amarius Mims that I really like, I cannot justify drafting someone like that in the first round. At number 2 here, we have Dallas Turner, the edge rusher from Alabama. Now, Dallas Turner, when it comes to his pass, or I guess we'll start with his run blocking. When it comes to Dallas Turner's run blocking, he's pretty average at being a run stopper, I'm not going to lie. He, instead of kind of using his hands to get on the left tackle or the right tackle and then shed with his hands, he kind of just throws his shoulder at the offensive tackle to disrupt the run. But that's not going to stop. That's not setting the edge like a edge rusher needs to do. That's kind of just trying to disrupt the play, and while it could work here and there, it's not what you need from a guy who you want to be a run stopper in the NFL. Now, against the pass, we do see some things that I like and some things we really don't like. For a projected top 10, top 15 guy, he needs to have a pass rush plan and show pass rush moves. And while we do see the occasional pass rush move, it is not nearly often enough, as Dallas Turner just tries to win with his power and with his hands. And that did work a lot for him at Alabama, and it will generate some pressures in the NFL because he has like very violent hands at the point of attack. So once the ball is snapped, he can use his quick get off and his violent hands to just get back and push into the quarterback. But you face against these more athletic and bigger and stronger offensive linemen in the NFL, and if they shut that down, he has no secondary move and he has no pass rush plan to be able to constantly create pressures on the quarterback. So while he has a lot of potential, I don't think he's worth that top 15 pick. Now, where I do see Dallas Turner, and why I have a second round grade on Dallas Turner still, is because if he's used as a gadgety type of player, I see a lot of success for Dallas Turner. One, I could see him as a 3-4 outside linebacker, being a pass rusher that way, and having the ability to drop back in coverage here and there because he does have good speed and acceleration. And then also, he's a really good delayed blitzer. So if he's a guy who might kind of be a QB spy or drop back in coverage a little bit and then end up blitzing, or being someone who goes from the outside and then rushes towards the center or guards and gets inside as a tweener. He really excelled at that, and that's a role that I could see for Dallas Turner. At number 3, I have Michael Penix Jr. from Washington. Now, Michael Penix Jr., a lot to like about the kid. He led his team to a national championship. He was a Heisman finalist. He appears to be a pretty good leader. He has really good arm strength. He shows good anticipation.
The inner machinations of my mind are an enigma.
He shows good anticipation. Sorry, I was having a stroke. He scans the field really well, and he has a pretty solid feel for pressure. And those are all things you really want to see in a quarterback. But if you're drafting a quarterback in the first round, you don't want someone who has questionable decision making, whose accuracy could really fall under pressure, who's going to be, and then along with some question marks in his mechanics and his accuracy and decision making, he's also going to be 24 as a rookie, and he's suffered multiple season-ending injuries. And again, someone like that could still succeed in the NFL, especially given everything else that you see from Michael Penix outside of the field. But I'm just not going to draft someone like that in the first round with that many red flags. So I like Michael Penix, but I don't think he's worth that first round pick. Now, at number 4 here, I have Chop Robinson, the edge rusher from Penn State. There are a lot of things to like about Chop Robinson, and there was a reason why he was once a projected top 10 pick, who's now being kind of a projected mid to late first round pick. And that's because of his athleticism. He's extremely quick. He has great twitchiness, great agility, really solid bend as well. And he also has an elite get off. Like, all of that, if he plays a slow tackle in the NFL and he learns to just get kind of like a secondary spin move, if his first rush outside doesn't work, he'll be able to succeed. And given that, plus his super high motor, and the fact that he doesn't even play with his gloves on, which is kind of insane. Well, he does, but some games he plays without his gloves. And when you have a guy who plays that hard without his gloves, and he's just like a guy who feels like a monster. But he also never shows pass rush moves. He has very poor size in both height and his arm length. And when he's not a help against the run at all and could be a liability against the run, I'm not drafting him in the first round. He could have success in the NFL. He plays so hard, and I really like his just motor and how, like I said, monstrous of a guy he is. But when you have limitations against the run as a pass rusher and size-wise, you are not a first-round prospect to me. And at number 5, this is going to be the most controversial one of them all. We have Jayden Daniels here, the quarterback from LSU and the Heisman winner. Now, Jayden Daniels, really good dual threat quarterback, really good deep ball accuracy, but even though he won the Heisman, he is not a top 3 pick like he's currently being projected. I don't even know where this came from. The Heisman has shown many times in the past that many Heisman winners can easily be bust, and that does not translate to the NFL. So just because I guess teams are looking for another Lamar Jackson, Jayden Daniels' agenda is getting pushed way too high. I like some of the things that the kid does, but I mean, I'm calling him a kid, but he's gonna be 24 soon too, just like Bo Nix and Michael Penix. His arm strength is questionable. It's not terrible, but it's also definitely not elite. He has some leadership question marks, and maybe this is an ASU issue, but the fact that when he left ASU, they all cleared his stuff out of the locker room and they were all just name-calling Jayden Daniels, saying that he was trash and all that, that really makes you wonder what kind of leader Jayden Daniels is. And maybe that's ASU being salty that their quarterback's leaving. But if it's not just that, that's something you have to really look at. And when someone like Mel Kiper is, and many NFL fans too, most of draft Twitter as well, is starting to project this guy over Drake May, for example, and just the pick after Caleb Williams, it's gotten to a point where it needs to stop.
It's time to stop!
And ultimately, while he could be a solid quarterback in the NFL, I don't ever see him becoming that top 5 quarterback, and definitely not worth the number 2 pick in the draft. So I know this video was kind of full of hate for all these prospects, but at the end of the day, that's the job as a general manager, is to evaluate the player completely. And if they get overdrafted and end up being a bust, that is the worst thing that a team can do. And as a Dolphins fan, I have seen that time and time again. So for your sake, these players should at least have some red flags thrown their way, and maybe we should slow down and pump the brakes on the hype train.